Hello, my name is Tom, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. Today we're going to be watching Emma Stone's favourite movies. If you do not know, I absolutely love Emma Stone. I've loved her since I've been like a kid. I remember watching Superbad, The Amazing Spider-Man, and just being like, wow, I love this actor. I just love this person. And then La La Land came out and it absolutely changed my life. One of my favourite movies of all time. Well, probably my favourite movie of all time. And now Poor Things has come out and it is doing absolutely incredible. It's a great movie. It's getting so many awards, so many nominations, and this is just like the perfect time to watch her favourite movies. So how did I find Emma Stone's 4 favourite movies? Well, I went on the Letterboxd Instagram, and you know the way they interview celebrities like this, you know, kind of like this, and they ask, hey, what's your 4 favourite movies? And she named her 4 favourite movies, and I was like, hey, this is the perfect time to watch Emma Stone's 4 favourite movies. I feel like I've said that so many times. I know nothing about these movies, but that's the best way to watch films, because maybe I'm going to find my favourite movie of all time from this video. Who knows? So the 4 movies that we're going to be watching are City Lights, Network, Mikey and Nikki, and The Fireman's Ball. And I'm so excited. I'm repeating myself a lot. I'm so happy that somebody else is picking the movies that I'm going to be watching for the next few days, because I'm always stressing as to what to watch, blah, blah, blah. I'm always stressing as to what to watch next, but I don't have to. I have 4 movies picked out for me, and I'm so excited. So I'm going to stop talking and let's go watch. I'm going to say it for the last time, I promise. Emma Stone's favourite movies. 4 favourite movies. Favourite movies. Let's go. Okay, hello. I have just watched the first movie, which was City Lights, directed and starring and everything by Charlie Chaplin. And it is the first, as embarrassing as it is, the first Charlie Chaplin movie that I have ever watched, and I absolutely fucking loved it. That was insane. But what is City Lights about? This movie is about Charlie Chaplin's character called the Tramp, who's a penniless man who falls in love with a blind woman that sells flowers. And with this, he's trying to court her. He's trying to make her fall in love with him. But also, he's trying to show her that he's like this rich man. Obviously, she does not know because she cannot see. But at the same time, the Tramp befriends this suicidal rich man who loves to party, who is over the top hectic, and whilst he is with him, he's able to access a life of materialism, access to things that he usually wouldn't have, like cars, money, parties, and guns, just things like this. And he uses and kind of manipulates this rich person to give him things that will allow the Tramp to make a life better for this lady, but also make this lady fall in love with him without her knowing that he's actually not rich, and he's kind of like lying to her. Not kind of lying to her, he is lying to her. And this movie is absolutely okay. I'm going to start off by just saying I was not really feeling this before I started it, because I just had a weird day, and I was like, I don't know if I am arsed with watching a silent movie, and I hate this ignorance that I have within my brain that's like, oh, silent movies, blah, blah, blah. And every single time I watch a silent movie, and this is my first Charlie Chaplin movie that I've mentioned, every single time I watch these movies, I absolutely fucking love them. This is no exception. This movie was absolutely incredible. Do I really need to tell you that Charlie Chaplin was incredible, the most hilarious, over the top, just him as a character? The character of the Tramp is so entertaining to watch. It's so fucking funny. This movie flew by. This movie is 87, 90-ish minutes long, and I'm not joking, that flew by. And that's simply not because of the story, not because of the idea of the story. It simply flew by because of the character and the performances and the just absolute craftsmanship within this movie. It's just, if you do not know, this movie took, I think it was like 2.5 years to film, because of how OCD and how particular Charlie Chaplin was, because he just wanted this movie to be absolutely perfect. And perfect this movie is. I can't believe we're starting off this video at such a high, but it's just like so clever. Like every single scene, it's just, it could be so standard, it could be, but then you have the presence of the Tramp, of Charlie Chaplin's character, that just rises it to such a high level, with the energy he just brings to the scene, with just the happiness it brings you whenever you're watching this. It's also really interesting because whenever this movie came out in 1931, movies did not have to be silent. They were already making like talkies, you know, like movies where people can actually speak and you can listen. But Charlie Chaplin was like, no, I feel like the form isn't going to last. I want to make this movie silent, because he just had this vision, and I admire that so much, just going against like the crowd and just what was popular, and just making such a incredible movie, a movie that's so engaging but also so timeless. Like this movie came out almost 100 years ago. and it still holds up. It's so entertaining, and I can imagine that in another 100 years this movie is still going to be so entertaining. It's still going to be so fun to watch because of Charlie Chaplin. And I know I'm like talking all this high praise about him, and this is the only movie of his that I've seen, but if this is anything to go by, then holy crap, this is incredible. So beautiful. There's so many scenes in this movie that are so hilarious and so funny. Like, there's one scene which you've probably seen online. It's the boxing scene. It's so hilarious. It's so funny. They reshot that so many times, and that scene is just absolutely incredible. And the other aspect of this movie that I really loved is just the romantic thing, like the romantic scene between the flower girl and the tramp and their little love story. And the ending of this movie, I don't want to tell you the ending of this movie, but if you know the ending of this movie, then I can tell you that this movie definitely paved ways for movies that we even watch now. The endings that are so similar that we watch right now were definitely inspired by the ending of this movie. That's all I will say, because it was beautiful. Like, that's, I feel like, the best way to describe this movie. Just absolutely beautiful. The last thing I want to say about this movie is the moral dilemma in this movie is something I really, really loved, that concerns the tramp, the main character, and whether he should be honest to the flower girl and be himself, be this penniless man, or should he pretend to be somebody else throughout the entire movie and come across as rich, as somebody who's like very wealthy. And obviously he does the latter, but at the end, when the truth is kind of revealed, it just got me thinking, and I really, really loved it. And that's all I'm going to say. I think that's all I'm going to say. I've been talking for such a long time. Time to go on to the second movie, and we're starting really good. So I have no idea what the second movie is. I haven't even looked yet. So let's go. Oh, hello. I have just watched the last movie of the day, which is the second movie of this video, right? I watched Network from 1976, directed by Sidney Lumet. I hope I'm saying that correctly, and that was extremely interesting. So basically, the story is about an anchorman on TV, obviously called Howard Beetle, and after 25 years of working there, he is told that he has to leave because he has to retire, because after 25 years of working there, the ratings are getting really, really bad, and that he basically is just like not cut out for the TV. It's not making them money. The corporate people are not happy with him because just not enough money, and he has to leave. And after he finds that out on a broadcast, he says, in a week's time, I'm gonna kill on TV. And people who are watching the show are like, ooh, that's kind of interesting. And a lot of people start tuning in to the newscast thing, to the news program. And corporate, all the people that work behind the news station and everybody that works behind the broadcast, behind the scenes, are like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe we have something going here. Why are all the ratings going up? Network executives rethink their decision when his fanatical tirade results in spike in ratings. And this movie basically follows, it's like basically split in two halves. The first half follows Howard very little, which is very interesting. That's the first thing I kind of want to mention about this movie, is that they don't really focus on him too much. We only see him sometimes whenever he's being broadcasted, whenever he's doing his own show, but it's mostly focused on corporate, the behind the scenes, and kind of the exploitation of people who are mentally ill, but are also, like, Howard is obviously a little bit mentally ill, but he's extremely intelligent. But he focuses on corporate, the behind the scenes, and how they exploit people just for views, and how they just treat people like absolute utter shit. This movie starts in a very hectic way. We have just so many people talking. It's just corporate people speaking. There's so many characters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the fuck is going on? There's literally layers and layers of dialogue. You don't really know what to focus on, but then you kind of get used to it as the movie goes on, because you're like, hey, that's the entire point. It is very manic. Behind the scenes of TV is very manic, and it's just not like a human thing. I feel like it's just absolutely bizarre, and it's just fucked. It's just insane. And it's also very interesting because it kind of shows us how our identities are extremely tied into our work. So, for example, we have Howard, who has been working there for 25 years, and he's just told he's going to be fired, and he's like, okay, this is how I read it, just to let you know. Initially, he's like, okay, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to kill myself, because his entire personality, his entire life has been tied in with work, and that is explored with other characters throughout this movie. We see several characters just that are not able to form relationships. They're not able to form friendships, nothing, because their entire life is centered around work. And I found it very interesting to kind of watch the behind the scenes of like this massive corporation basically exploiting people and the mentalities that go into them, and how they just dehumanize people for the sake of profit, and how everything is so planned just for money, and how if you're just not doing well for a single week, as it says towards the end of the movie, success and failure is determined each week on TV. And watching Howard get exploited for profit kind of showcases the corruption that goes on behind the scenes, and a lot of other corruption that is actually mentioned by Howard. And that's another thing I wanted to say. He goes on these like intelligent spirals where he says a lot of things. Some of them are a bit hectic, but some of them are very intelligent. They make sense. He's trying to tell us how we should not believe everything that we see on TV. We should not believe everything we're told. We should use our brains. And he says throughout life that we need to just think for ourselves. And again, I find that very interesting. Like this came out in 1976, and that still holds up to now. We are being told information through reels, shorts, TikTok, whatever, you know the whole crack. Information and news is given to us so quick, but we don't really process it. We just take it in and believe it at face value. And this movie via Howard is telling us, don't fucking believe that. Everything on TV is not real. It's all scripted. And we are kind of told that and shown that by not actually seeing Howard's life. It's all centered around behind the scenes of corporate, as I've mentioned. And I found that extremely interesting because this movie holds up now. It's like, it has not aged badly at all. It's actually more relevant than ever, and I found that extremely interesting. But I also find it very interesting that he is kind of like a voice for the voiceless, and how depressing it is that he is the voice for the voiceless, because obviously he's not all there. He needs some form of help. He needs something, but he is the voice for the voices of people, because the climate in 1975 or 76 when this is all made was not good, obviously. And I found it interesting that he is the voice for the people, and it really showcased that a lot of people did resonate with him, because whenever he started getting more and more popular, the people that watched it really resonated with him, and they chanted things he wanted them to chant. And and saying all that, the movie was very incredible, but there was so much happening, there was so much dialogue, so many characters, and I feel like I would really learn a lot from this if I rewatched it. But I was honestly just overwhelmed by everything from this movie. But from what I understood from it, what I got from it, I really enjoyed it. These are the only two movies that I'm going to be watching today. I'm going to watch the other two hopefully tomorrow or the day after. But overall, these two movies, City Lights and Network, were absolutely incredible. Emma Stone, perfect, incredible taste. I am really enjoying this. I cannot wait to watch the rest of the movies. I hope my reviews are making sense so far, and I hope I'm actually being somewhat correct. That's everything I have to say. On to the next movie. Hello. Sorry if I look like an absolute pancake. I washed my hair, but more importantly, this iPad is going crazy. More importantly, I've watched the next movie, Nikki and Mikey. This iPad keeps turning. Wait, I need to turn auto lock off. Okay, so I just watched Nikki and Mikey, and that was so good. But what was this movie about? Well, it follows two people, Nikki and Mikey. Nikki is freaking out because a mob boss is going to kill him. Well, he thinks he is. Anyway, because Nikki is freaking out. He thinks his life is about to die. He's having a panic attack. He is going absolutely nuts. And in this time of absolute despair, and in a time where he's just not feeling the best, I guess you could say, he calls his friend Mikey, and Mikey comes and rescues him. And Mikey's like, okay, let's get you out of this hotel room because you're freaking out. Your stomach is going nuts. Your mind is all over the place. We're going to rescue you. We're going to get you out of the city. We're going to basically take you away and save your life, because, well, half of Mikey is also convinced that Nikki is lying. He doesn't actually think that his life is going to end. Or is he? I'm not really going to tell you much. But that's basically what the movie is about. It's about these two men having a very interesting relationship whilst having this threat that Nikki's life is going to end very soon. And it's very interesting for many reasons. I have a few notes that I would like to go over and give you a little bit of a review of this movie. But the first thing I want to say is the performances and the relationships in this movie. There's only a handful of characters in this movie, and I'm only going to talk about these two because the other ones might spoil it a little bit. And I just wanted to say the performances by the two men, by Nikki and Mikey, Nikki and Mikey. Have I been saying that wrong the entire time? I hope I have not. But by Nikki and Mikey are absolutely incredible. Their relationship is so interesting, and it's also very interesting because both of these characters are extremely flawed. And I don't even know if I like Nicky that much. He's just not a good person, and I feel like that sets up like this bit of a dilemma in the viewer's head of, should you feel really bad for him that he's gonna get potentially killed when he's not a good person at all? I found that extremely interesting. Their dynamic and their relationship and friendship is just so interesting, and the writing in this movie is incredible because as the story goes on, you learn so much about the characters, but very subtly, but that's just thanks to the writing. You learn so much very slowly up until the very end of the movie, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. And the main thing about this movie is everything in this movie feels authentic. From the way that it's shot, it almost feels like, I think the word is guerrilla filmmaking, like it's really low budget. Like I feel like there's scenes outside where there's people just watching the camera because they're like, wait, are we in the movie? Whilst the actors are actually just acting. And I feel like with that authenticity and just it feeling like a very raw movie, it feels really realistic, and it really engages the viewer quite a lot, because I was watching this like, why are we just watching them do something? I don't want to tell you what for like 10 minutes, but then I'm like, hey, this feels really realistic, and this movie is very minimal, and it just centers around this dilemma, and a dilemma that Mikey has as well, which I'm not going to tell you because I don't really want to spoil the movie for you. And it just felt very authentic, very realistic. It's an incredible, slow movie, but the concept is so interesting to me, and I love a movie that has like these dilemmas within it, but when it's also centered around two people just talking the whole night and trying to crack down the relationship, trying to figure out the relationship. I also found it really interesting that Nicky is dealing with the fact that he's going to die very soon, and it obviously, I feel like, I've never been there, but I feel like if you're in that state of, hey, I'm going to get killed in the next very short while, in the next day, it makes you think and act very, very differently. And the way Nicky acts is not acceptable at all at times, but it's like you understand where he's coming from, but you do not condone it, you do not accept it because it's very shitty. But it's interesting because it makes you think, what would you be like if that was happening to you, and if you were just entirely convinced that you're going to die? And the ending of this movie is very heartbreaking. It's very sad because there's also a dilemma set up, which I can't tell you about because it's just gonna spoil it for you, which I don't want it to do. So if you want a story that's very realistic, centered around a friendship between two men who have known each other their entire lives, where one of them is going to be killed potentially in the next day or 24 hours or whatever, and the other character is trying to help him, which also he holds quite a lot of secrets that get revealed to you throughout the movie. Watch this, Emma Stone. You have incredible taste. We have one more movie to watch, and I'm going to watch that tomorrow morning because it's quite late here, hence the really shitty lighting. But I think that's everything I have to say. Let's go watch the final movie and wrap this video up because it's going to be way too long. Let's go. I started watching that movie at 7:30 and it is 9:15 now. That was such a short movie, and if I look tired, that is why. But The Fireman's Ball was definitely my favorite movie of Emma Stone's favorite movies that I have watched throughout this entire movie. It was absolutely incredible. I loved it. Like, I feel like it was just right up my street. So what is this movie about? A volunteer fire department throws a party for their former boss with the whole town invited, but nothing goes as planned. And I absolutely loved it because from the very first second you see these men dressed in suits having this like very serious conversation. I'm like, okay, is this going to be a serious movie? But no, they're just talking about who's going to be presenting this golden axe to their former boss. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is going to be a little bit of a comedy because I knew nothing going into this movie. But then we also have a man who's extremely paranoid that someone is stealing all the raffle prizes, and he keeps blaming everybody. He's like, wait, who ate the cake? Who took this? Blah, blah, blah. And then it slowly develops into a comedy, and the comedy is about, you see these men and you think that they're meant to be very serious, and they are meant to be serious because they're firemen. They're meant to be saving lives, saving people, but no, they're so fixated on the smallest and stupidest things, and they're like ignorance and hypocrisy and kind of their stupidity is shown throughout this entire movie because their priorities are so skewed. Throughout the movie, the firemen are just focused on finding the most beautiful underage girls at the party and just putting them into a beauty contest and just judging them as these weird, big, old, creepy men, and it's just absolutely disgusting. And their priorities are just never right throughout this entire movie. They care more about the performativity of being a fireman, of the appearance of being a fireman, but whenever it actually comes to helping people, because in this movie there's a fire where somebody's house is burnt, they're like, oh no, there's a fire, oh well, let's get back and worry about who's actually stealing our raffle prizes, because that's way more important than the lives. And there's one part in this movie that was extremely heartbreaking, because the man whose house is burnt down gets brought into their ball, into their party, and he gets told that he's going to get the money from the raffle, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe these firemen are going to be nice, but no, he gets to choose a ticket from the raffle to win something off the table of prizes, even though everything has been stolen. And then the movie turns right back around on these firemen who are just are not serious people, and they're just honestly just really, really shitty people. And this movie is obviously a comedy, and it's kind of like a social commentary on how shitty these people in suits are, who don't take their job seriously and who are just more, they just care about like the lifestyle of having fun, but also acting as if they're very, very important, because there's so many conversations throughout this movie where they just appear to be very, very serious, and between them they believe each other. They're like, yeah, I think she, you know, even though she's probably like 16, I think she's not tall enough to be the most beautiful girl here. And they have like these conversations with other men, and they're like, is she worthy of being a part of our competition of the most beautiful girl in the fireman's ball? And it is just so stupid, and it's hilarious because it's just like ridiculous trying to watch these people, and they're being serious and their help is actually needed, but they're more prioritized on like girls and raffle prizes and like their appearance and about a fucking like golden axe. And it's just, oh my gosh. And at the very end of the movie, I know this is a slight spoiler, they're so fixated about figuring out how they're going to catch the people who have been stealing the raffle prizes. They have so many theories what they're going to do, and then they just go outside of their office, because you know they have to talk in private, they're men. They go outside of their office and they realize that everyone has left, because they were like, hey, we're not going to get caught for this shit, fuck it. And their former boss is there, and they award him this axe, and their former boss goes out on this like massive performance speech where he like says the biggest word, but to nobody, just to them. And I think that like really hammers home the whole facade of these people in like suits and their importance, even though it's all a performance, as I've said so many times throughout this review. I found it really interesting because this movie is only what, like 70 minutes long, and there's so much depth to the characters. I feel like this movie has so much to say, but it's also extremely funny. Like, it felt like a Russian short story that I've read before, and I really, really, really loved it. Like, it's right up my street. It's something that I would read, but seeing it on the screen, and the performances were great. I just thought everything, the movie looked fantastic, the performances were great, the idea was really clever, the commentary was very clever. It was incredible. I loved this. And watching it at 7:30, I was like, damn, I'm gonna really struggle to watch this, but no, incredible. So I think that's everything I have to say about the Fireman's Ball. It was extremely good, and that wraps up our entire video. Was this fun? Extremely fun. Did I find some incredible movies? I did. These are the ratings I gave the movies. Here are the ratings. Here you go. I had such a good time. I found so many incredible movies. I really loved that there was a big range of movies. I was never bored. It was never kind of like too tedious to watch. It was always engaging, always fun, and I'm not just saying this for the video. I really, really, really love those movies, and I want to do this series more. So Emma Stone, fuck yeah, that was incredible. So thank you, Emma Stone, for recommending those movies to Letterboxd, and then, well, I took those movies and I watched them, and I really loved them, and this was really fun. And this video is definitely going to be super long, so if you've made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.